This museum here in Budapest is known as the Hospital in the Rock, and it is a very fascinating museum. And I'll tell you why by telling you a little bit about its actual history and how it came to be. The Hospital in the Rock actually is a tunnelling system which has a connection to Buda Castle. Now, the tunnels have actually been formed during the late Ice Age, and it was an ideal place to be used as a shelter, especially during the Second World War. Originally, the hospital was used by the government, but eventually the National of Defence Minister decided to turn it into an actual working hospital, and by 1944 it was opened up to the public as a working hospital during the war. The hospital only really was used after the American air raid of May 1944, as well as during the siege of Budapest, which happened between 1944 and 1945. In that time, the three wards that they had were overcrowded with people. Due to the overcrowding, situations became very dire because not only were they looking after civilians, they were also looking after soldiers, and not just Hungarian soldiers, but German soldiers as well. It got so bad that they had about 3 people to a bed, and supplies were drastically low. It got to the point where anybody who could stand and walk were encouraged to leave the hospital to make room for yet more patients. The hospital was eventually then closed in June of 1945. In the early 1950s, the hospital was secretly reopened and more wards were extended and added into the hospital, and it was re-equipped. It wasn't reopened until 1956 when the revolution of Budapest happened and the hospital opened its doors to civilians and the general public in order to attend to anybody who had been injured during that revolution. But they didn't just attend to patients that had been injured, though they did attend to some people that had bullet wounds during the revolution, but they also helped some women give birth to children in this actual hospital. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, though, the hospital constantly had updates and additions put to it, and it was also turned into a nuclear shelter with the idea that you should be able to protect people and help people, especially if there was a nuclear attack. Although the hospital does have a generator and it was made purposely to try and protect people in case of a nuclear attack, especially during the Cold War, those practices have now been made obsolete due to modern technologies, modern way of being, and it just wouldn't be able to help people nowadays. So, since 2007, the Hospital in the Rock has then been turned into a military museum to talk about Hungary's part during the Second World War and the Cold War, and it's definitely worth checking out if you're interested in that period of history.